in podcast Detroit, recording live. Prepare yourself for a hoppy drive. If you're chilling at home, pop that growler and just kick back for the next 2 hours. It's the end of the week, so here's to the weekend. It's Better on Draft with Rob, Matt, Nick, and Ken.
And we are live, episode number 156 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. We are here in studio, Royal Oak, Michigan. We've got a decently sized full house here. We even have someone under it. Did we card her by chance? We got to make sure that everyone is carded, ready to go. Let's turn on some mics, say hello to some people. Matt, how you doing?
Hi, Ken. How are you this week?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. I've got my Verners. Got a little bit of Sheboygan Blood Orange Honey. A little bit of the cinnamon Hefeweizen going. Their Imperial cinnamon Hefeweizen.
Yeah, I got a little shot of that for myself.
You got in your little shot glassy.
Yeah.
And then was it Diet Red Bull and sort of
No, I did not go with
whiskey this time.
Red Bull and whiskey. I went with Diet Verner's.
Oh,
and whiskey.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
It's a Diet Highball.
Yeah. Diet Verner's.
Come on, man.
Ra, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir.
How you doing?
Oh my God, I am absolutely. It is just a busy life. I am now the proud father of a 13-year-old as of Tuesday.
Wow!
Congratulations, Papa.
Yeah.
Do you throw your hands in the air?
I do not wave them as if there are no complications. No. It is basically dealing with teen angst and just being 13. It's kind of.
I mean, do you remember when you were an angry teenager back in the 60s?
I didn't have time to be angry in the 60s.
You were probably working at that time. Child labor laws probably weren't that good yet.
More than likely.
You can get away with these jokes.
Of course I can.
Of course you can.
Said child labor laws. I don't know what's offensive about that. Maybe to children. We do have a child in here, though.
It's too historically complicated.
So we have a surprise. Who did not tell us she was going to be here. Welcome back, Angela.
Hey.
There it is.
We should have
changed
it.
Is. Damn, I missed that.
Completely forgot all about it. And she's just like, hey. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what she does.
I was waiting for it.
Although I asked where I would be not on camera, and there is a camera.
There's no such thing as being not on
staring
camera.
Right at
Because
again, there are four cameras. Look at.
I mean, take a look at my tablet right there, and you will see that everybody is very clearly.
You can
on
go
camera.
sit in the other room and just yell through the wall. That's probably your only option.
So,
when did this happen and why? Nobody wants to watch us.
3 weeks ago?
About a month ago, we got the second camera. We just finally got to use it last week, fully.
It was the week after we got back from Music Town, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
3 weeks ago.
Everyone blossomed on camera, so you decided to bring them back up to Royal Oak.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're live every Friday night, Facebook.com/Better on Draft.
I watch it.
Angela watches it.
She can't. She clearly does know. She would know the camera was here.
I haven't watched it in a couple. I haven't watched it in a couple of weeks, but I've watched and I listen and I laugh and I try to comment. No one comments back.
Maybe we block you. I don't know. What are you drinking over there?
Some Starbucks cold brew. Just keeping it real. And then I've got some of the cinnamon Hefeweizen.
What do you think of the Hefeweizen? I haven't had it yet. I gotta try it.
It's good.
Matt, what did you think?
I didn't catch too much imperialness from it, but that just means I can't drink too much of it because then it'll just sneak up on you like a little ninja and just cut you down.
Yeah, he was. Well, their initial run was 9%, and they said they dropped this run to 7.8.
Yeah, so that means it doesn't taste like 7.8 until you had your third one, and then you're like, "Whoa, when did the floor start moving?"
This kind of just tastes a lot just cinnamon. That's all I'm getting is cinnamon and water.
I'm getting the Hefe flavor,
I'm not getting any of that that Hefeweizen.
Maybe because it's such a not wide. What's the opposite of wide?
Cinnamon clove,
narrow,
a little bit of apple.
It's such a narrow brim. I don't know if the brim is nearly wide enough for you to get the whole aura of the cinnamon in the hef.
Well, we do have some guests in studio. from Cultivate, making his return to the show 132 episodes later.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Has it been that many?
Yeah, you were
Wow,
you
good
were
for
in
you
the
guys.
20s.
Okay.
So
Congratulations to you guys.
we're still
Congratulations to you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
going. Well, yeah, you've been the world traveler, or at least the southeast
Southeast,
Michigan
yeah.
traveler. So you were at Glass House when we last talked to you.
I was.
They no longer exist.
That is correct.
You then moved where?
I was at Tecumseh Brewing Company.
And how long were you there for?
I was there from October 2016 to January of this year.
All right. And where are you now?
I'm now with Cultivate Coffee and Tap House in Ypsilanti.
All right. And next to you, we have. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Ryan Wallace.
Ryan
Mike.
Wallace. What mic are you on? There should be a little
on 3.
number.
2?
He's on 2.
I mean, there's 2 over there. He's got options.
No, I don't think he's on number 2.
No, he's on 3.
He's on 3.
Yeah.
Man, I was going backwards this whole time. Damn. All right, so we're going to have to readjust this a little bit. Rob's still on 5, so I got that
Yeah.
one right.
Yeah, I'm good.
So 7 is no longer being used. There we go. I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
your name again, Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan Wallace, one of the founders of Cultivate.
One of the founders. And
Yeah.
what is Cultivate?
So it's a coffee and tap house. Honestly, it's mostly a community center that serves, in my opinion, amazing products in the city of Ypsilanti, Michigan.
I was.
I do have to say that.
I tell you what. I went there. There was a chess night
Yeah,
going
you were
on
there
at that time.
Wednesday. Yeah.
There was a chess night going on. There was a crafts thing going on the tables behind it.
Yeah.
And then I
Did you
wound
say
up
crafts or craps?
crafts,
Okay.
not crafts
'cause
like
craps
gambling.
is something we haven't brought in yet.
No,
so-
crafts is an art.
We're gonna
center.
start
That's
a
in the
weekly
alleyway
craps
behind
night.
the building.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, you could probably, for how deep that backyard goes, you could probably start
Yeah.
doing it all the way in the back, and
Lawn
nobody
darts.
will notice. Yeah, some jarts. Yeah,
Lawn darts, yeah.
I think those are illegal.
Really? No, they got the Nerf ones. They're okay.
The ones that don't kill you.
Yeah, they only make you stronger.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they allow axe throwing, so
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm surprised that they haven't legalized indoor jarts yet.
yeah.
That could be the next big thing. Foaling, axe throwing, now jarts.
guess.
There we go. So when did Cultivate open?
2015, the fall.
And have you been brewing the entire time? Or
No.
Okay.
Started brewing about 15 years ago, home brewing. Quite involved in that scene over on the west side of the state. But no, as a business, we did not start with brewing. We actually started with coffee,
Okay.
and we were open 2 months before we got our liquor license and everything else approved. So then we started that, and then it was a couple of years later that we started the whole collaboration brewing thing.
What is collaboration brewing?
Yeah, so it's similar to the easiest way to explain it is we're the evil twin of Michigan. I think is how Kuma and I have spoken about it when we first kind of conceptualized it, which is we create a recipe and then we choose kind of what brewery that we want to work with and send it out to them, and then we work together on what the final recipe is, and then we go out on their equipment, learn it, all that kind of stuff, and we help them brew it on those days.
So you guys don't have any? Do you have equipment at your brewery, or
None whatsoever.
None. Nope.
But do you guys have a brewer's license, or are you just kind of like Gypsy Brewing, making the beer wherever
Exactly.
and then bringing it into your house?
Exactly. Yep. That's what we're doing.
So
I'm sorry. Are you
Matt.
guys then on a Class C brewer's license, or are you on a full bar license then?
Yeah, we have a full bar license, Class C, liquor, wine, all that
Okay.
kind of stuff too. Yep.
So you're not running under the same rules as
Yeah,
who's
breweries.
on it? Ypsilanti that we
Nope.
had on a couple weeks
No,
ago.
very different. Yeah.
Cool.
Do you guys have a food program there?
Yeah, we do. Kind of more like light lunch food at this point. We're going to be expanding that come spring right now. We're looking at a small expansion. So we'll be having a little bit more breakfast food, lunch food, and a little bit more substantial kind of snacks for kind of the night crowd, so to speak.
And where are you guys located in Ypsilanti? Like what part?
Yeah, right in downtown Depottown. It's kind of, I would say, the hotbed kind of Ypsilanti right now. It's kind of where the nightlife is. So that's like we're right downtown.
Right
So-
across the street from the Ypsi Food Co-op.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, why did you guys decide to start with coffee? Was it Was that kind of your first thought, was to be a coffee house, and then, hey, we'll get beer too? Or did coffee just kind of put you like financially in the position to branch out? What was the thought process there?
Yeah, barely anyone makes money in coffee, to be honest with you. But the conceptual idea of it came over a decade ago. I was in San Francisco, and funny enough, I was just getting into coffee at the time because I had been into beer, and I saw a guy at a coffee shop crack open a beer behind the bar during his shift, which he shouldn't have been doing, clearly. But
It was a simpler time.
yeah, it's similar,
Right.
I guess simpler. Yeah, for sure than now. But he cracked it open, and I just had this thing go off in my head. And was like, man, if I could get a beer here, and there was a place. It was in San Francisco, and there's a place called the City Beer Store, and went there to get all the the best beers that were available pretty much anywhere at the time. And I was like, if those two things were combined, I would never leave this place. And then I started thinking in my head, I should create that. Just an amazing draft line and amazing roasting, great coffee, all that kind of stuff.
Where do you put the cots in that scenario?
Yeah, well, yeah, right? So that's the C thing, right? We have this whole values thing that we can talk about later. But yeah, COTS is funny because it's another C. But anyway, yeah, it's you could go there in the morning and you could stay throughout the night and, or whatever. And it's also a place of you can get work done, but you can also celebrate with friends and things like that too. So that's kind of how it was conceptualized early on.
Well, before
yeah.
we continue, let's crack open one of your beers. Let's talk about it. Which ones do you got? Kuma, do you want to
Yeah.
make
So
the decision?
Yeah, so we brought 3 beers with us today. We got a coffee stout that we did in collaboration with Drafting Table. The base beer is actually Ryan's recipe. We got a beer called Gram Positive. That one's a Concord Grape Sour that we did in collaboration with Speciation out in Comstock Park. And then we got one called Promised Land. It is pretty much a braggot. It's a honey and lactose ale that we did with in collaboration with Brewery Vivant. So this one's actually got spruce in it.
Yeah.
So
I say coffee stout.
coffee stout it is.
Gotta wake it up, right?
Damn right.
Gotta get that nice crack sound here. Let me see if I can get it in the mic. Oh yeah, there we go.
I really think we should have that sound right as our music starts.
Intro it.
I'll
I'll charge you $9.99
for that. Well, I mean, we technically own that specific the Kuma. We'll call it the Kuma crack.
There you go.
Ooh,
There you
yeah.
go.
See, you guys have it on recorded now. You know, you just got isolated.
That's perfect.
So, how did you get involved, Kuma, with Cultivate? How did you move from Tecumseh to Cultivate?
It is, in fact, Tecumseh. So I was actually not really looking for a new job or anything. I was enjoying myself down at Tecumseh. It's a great little town, great place to work. But Ryan approached me and with this idea to do this collaboration brewing program. And it's interesting because he later revealed to me that it actually came from a conversation that he and I had, at this point, 2 years ago, something like that. And we were just talking about, just brewing at Cultivate and what that could look like, considering there's not really any space to brew on premises. And we just kind of tossed around these ideas and kind of landed on, what would it look like if you guys had a staff brewer who went around and collaborated with everyone. And then next thing I knew, December last year, about a year ago,
That's what you were doing.
Now he hits me up and he's like, hey, I've got a job for you. Doing exactly what we talked about. And I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up jumping into it and joined the team back in January of this year. And since then, I think we're at the point we've collaborated with 18 different breweries around the state. Grand Rapids, around southeast Michigan, Lansing area, and then I've gone as far up as Shorts, actually. Did one just a couple weeks ago, just about November 9th. That one's I'm pretty excited about, actually.
Hot damn! How did I not know about this?
Yeah.
That's surprise.
Now, is there? I don't know if you can answer this question. Has there been a favorite experience you've had with a collaborator?
It's a pretty
They're all
mixed
great
bag,
people. They're all really welcoming.
Exactly.
I like all my brewing partners.
There are some better than others.
All All right, we won't get into details about that, but
Some NFL speak right there.
Yeah.
But is there an experience that you had that you maybe learned more from than you thought, or you had more fun than you thought going into it? Like, shit, we have to brew with these people, and then came out like, oh, I want to do this again.
nothing like that, thankfully. But in truth, like there are certain there's some breweries that you can tell like there's just a lot of different ways to create beer, right? There's a lot of different ways to go about it, and there are certain breweries and brewers who they give a lot of attention to the details. And those are the brewers I like working with because that's how I like to brew. If I have the equipment to do it, if I have the means to do it, I like to pay attention to those details. I want to record everything. I want to make sure that I'm duplicating the exact process so I can duplicate the exact beer if, assuming it turns out all right. You know.
So you approach brewing beer in more of a baker's mindset than a chef's mindset, in that everything is detailed and exact versus kind of play it by ear and figure out as you go.
Very, very much so. Yeah, I've tried that before and it didn't go so well. I got a smoked wheat IPA that I just don't. It didn't turn out so well. There was a lot of throwing things at it after the fact to try to make it palatable, and well,
For some raspberries or strawberry.
cherries. It turned out cherries are what saved that beer. But
It had to be some something sugary
just
fruity.
It's always
just
cherry.
barely, yeah, cherries. But yeah, so yeah.
So do you want to shout out a specific brewery that you did enjoy working with the most?
I guess recently I've really enjoyed working with Brewery Vivant. Those guys are just a lot of fun to work with. Ascension up in Novi, those guys are some of the most experimental brewers you will ever come across. They will try any damn thing when it comes to making beer.
We actually had Brandon Sabo
Yeah.
join in the chat and said hello to you. So
Oh, very cool. Okay,
he's,
yeah.
he's listening.
Oh, hey, what up, Brandon? But yeah, those guys are great. Those guys literally will try anything. If you haven't tried it before, try their Spool Torf. They put Fruit Loops in the mash
So,
and made an IPA.
Speaking of
Don't tell me you have some right now.
not spool, just
Oh,
Torf.
just Torf.
Oh, yeah. That is actually, that one right there is one of our collaborations.
Yeah.
So
That is
we-
amazing.
When we did our New England Challenge last year, we did a bunch of New England IPAs. I actually had talked to Brandon over the phone, and the question to him was, I was like, hey, we're doing this challenge. A lot of people wanted Spool Torf again, and did you want to, brew it or join it in the kind? He's like, well, we had no intention of brewing it again. Zero intention. And I'm like, oh, okay. He was because they were going through like Cocoa Puffs and whatever other ideas that they had.
Count Chocula?
I don't think they did that. I can't remember what other variations they did. But from there, we see now today like Spool Torf continuously being made, and we're like, oh, it was interesting to hear that. Just a year ago, you were like, we're done with this beer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those beers that's just like once you brew it, you can't get away from it. It's like M43 with Old Nation, right?
I don't think that'll ever not be made again.
Who's Old Nation? Where?
Oh, have you not heard of them? They have this beer. It's called M43. Have you heard of it?
Like M50, like Van Dyke Road?
You really want to start something right now, don't you?
M59 IPA.
I don't know if I want a M59 IPA.
It's very bumpy.
That was it.
It goes down to one lane.
Probably gonna pop a tire.
That'd definitely be the Mound
Called
IPA.
Shocks.
Right.
So
Lord.
when did you decide Ypsi and why Ypsi?
Yeah. So I lived in Ann Arbor at the time, and all my friends and kind of the community I was forming was all in Ypsilanti. And Ann Arbor wasn't necessarily my vibe.
Good call.
So, I mean, I feel that way, clearly. But I ended up just feeling like Ypsilanti was a town that both, like, I resonated with a lot of the people, I think there was some good work starting to happen there, and felt like we could kind of be a catalyst for a lot of potentially positive things in that city. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up there. And honestly, like, we wanted space too, and I found an old auto shop with a giant area in the back that I mean, the minute I stepped on the property, I saw the building already built out, and I saw the whole beer garden, which I love that beer garden, honestly.
It was an awesome beer garden.
Thank
an
you.
amazing beer
That
garden.
is. That
I've
is.
seen you enjoy it. So.
Can
Can you not wear your bathing suit next time?
Tell that to Sean. Sean's the one who's always in the bathing suit.
I went there for my first time earlier this year, kind of like late in the summer because I just finished working over at Maze right around the corner from you guys. And I was like, oh, I'll go over there. And I actually, it was literally would have been just at the end of August because I stopped drinking beer. And sure enough, I see the full cocktail list, and I'm like, all right, I can I can deal with this. So I don't remember exactly what I had. I'm pretty sure it was.
Good, huh?
So it was a good night.
It wasn't necessarily that because it wasn't anything like specialty. It would have been something just your standard drink. So either a Moscow Mule, most likely it was a Moscow Mule because that's pretty much all I drink now is my cheat drink, I guess you could say, because it's one of those drinks that you can't drink really fast. That ginger is so potent that you can't drink it very fast. So I always choose that, even though I should just be drinking like Diet Coke and rums or whatever. But yeah, the drink was really good, but the atmosphere was perfect. Like just relaxing outside. It wasn't like your typical beer garden where like you kind of it wasn't too many people out there. It was just very, very nice. So that was my one experience there.
Thanks.
So, I mean, as far as, Ypsi and Depot Town, obviously you guys have a little bit of, I always hate saying the word competition, but you guys have a little bit of competition in the area because not, 200 feet away, you've got Sidetrack, and across the street, you've got 734 Brewing.
Yep.
So what is that like having to, because, I mean, obviously Sidetrack has been there for a long time, and then you guys were popped in there, and then now you've got 734 who just opened 8 months ago, I think around that time. I mean, how has that been with having to, I mean, in essence, contend with those crowds that have been in those locations?
It's, in my opinion, it's been great. I think one of the things that I think people underestimate a lot of times is that you need to create a corridor of entertainment in any town. And you need to have multiple places that people resonate with or can connect with. And I think Cultivate added to that significantly when Sidetracks was already there. And Maiz, my buddy, owns that, and we love going there. Our staff supports them, to the nth degree. And it's like, the more places that you can have down there, the more excitement that it brings to the area, the more people come down, and they can hit different places for different experiences that they're looking for, right?
Right.
Our big issue now is parking down there, which we can have a long discussion about. But I think like getting excitement, and we've got that now. We've got people coming down, and almost everyone is checking out Cultivate at least when they come down there, which is pretty cool. And we feel pretty fortunate about.
Yeah.
But no, my wife and I, she's the other founder. Yes, we are a husband and wife team, which someday you should just have us on because it's a thing, right? Working with your wife. But I think like we are always trying to be very welcoming because we find like a lot of times people are so much like think everything is a competition and a battle. There's no question there's competition, but there's also this like welcoming of everyone to try to figure this out. Like, what's good for the town is good for each of us. And I think we have always tried to live by that principle, and it's worked out well for us so far.
Yeah. Now, considering, that street, I mean, is there really a solution to the parking?
Well, here's the thing.
Unless something gets raised,
Yeah.
Is there? I mean, get the train tracks out of the way and maybe
goodness.
move that museum a couple blocks down.
Honestly, I think it's only a matter of a couple of years before there's a dirt lot on the other side of the tracks, unlike the north side of the tracks.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of a couple of years before that becomes a parking garage.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a fight, because there's people who live right there. But
Right.
yeah, realistically,
I mean, I'm in constant dialogues, and I'm a part of, this discussion going on. And, I mean, I'm a big proponent of it. So it's just a matter of time. And, every city's different. Every city moves at a different speed at different times, and different leadership can make it move differently. We just got a new mayor and some different, city council members and things like that. So we'll see whether or not they're wanting and desiring to move forward with that. But
Right. Now, definitely one of the differences that we haven't, at least for my part, that I haven't seen from brew pubs and the like, is that you guys are a nonprofit. I got to talk about that and what you do in terms of being a nonprofit.
yeah, it's been difficult from the beginning because even just to explain it to people, is we have 2 businesses, so we pay all of our like full taxes on everything. And we have an LLC that's just like running as any other kind of LLC tap house would. The difference is it's a social entrepreneurial kind of venture where we've committed to donating X amount of profits, pretty much all of them, after like my wife and I don't take a lot of money out of the company, and then we donate the money, and we donate it, and we have a nonprofit. So like in the beginning, we wanted to start a nonprofit and set it up because we saw down the road that this would grow and that we would want to do a lot of kind of nonprofit work in the city. And so it's grown great. And we've been able to donate over, I think it's like $110,000 at this point since we've opened, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. And so now we're looking at, okay, how do we want to grow the nonprofit as well? You know, and I think it's going to become its own thing as time goes on. So it's pretty exciting. The city has resonated kind of with what we've done and our mission and all that. But it's been a lot. It's been so much work. But yeah, it's been so much work. It's really, we started 2 companies is like what we've learned over time. And we didn't really know that we were doing that in the beginning. And so like, you know, you think about the work a normal brewery or whatever goes through, like, and you double that, that's kind of what we've experienced in many ways. So it's been intense.
Wow.
Are there certain nonprofits that you lean towards that you work with?
Yes, our first year was interesting. Like it was this, people resonated with it, and we were able to give away money right away, pretty much. And it was like, okay, like now we've got to make decisions on who we're giving money to. And it was like this principle of you give $1 to 100 people. And I just didn't feel like it was effective that much. And to be honest, not everyone uses their resources in the same way. And that resonated with what we wanted to support in our city. So then we stepped back and we analyzed, okay, these are the organizations we want to work with and give our money to and all of that. And so that's kind of what we're doing now is we've kind of doubled down, and especially this year, on giving money to certain organizations. And, you know, we've seen a lot more fruit, so to speak, from that. So it's been great.
Right on.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk us through this coffee stout that we just tried? Where did you get the beans from? Is it, you know, I mean, it's obviously a coffee stout, so what's the base of the coffee?
Yeah, so the recipe itself is 16 years old. I won't tell you my age, so you can't do the math. But let's just say I was into craft beer before I was able to, you know, partake of a certain beverage. And an older friend and I, he just wanted a good stout recipe, and so we spent I don't know how much time trying to dial it in, and finally found something that we liked. And it was funny because kept it around, and I never knew why. You know, like even have some of the recipes we've kind of launched off of for many years, and then had brought it back. And it's funny when you bring it back, and now I'm like, oh, I own a coffee roastery. Right. Like shit. Now we'll just throw. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, cool.
You're the one with the kid here.
Yeah, no. I was holding back.
Listen, she's growing up in a bar, everyone. For better or worse, it's a social experiment. So far it's gone well. I think.
It has.
I think. Yeah, Kuma should say more about that.
Only been no murders.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I think like once we had the coffee roastery side of it, and I think honestly we have one of the best coffee roasters in the world, Jess Harmon, shout out. She's amazing, and yeah, she started roasting coffee, and now we've used our coffee in 4 or 5 different recipes, different beers. I think the rye gorilla juice used it. I think at a festival.
Used our coffee a couple times.
We used it in the Cultivate Stout for drafting table when we bottled it. This is the non-barrel aged version, obviously.
Yeah, we did a barrel aged version with drafting table with Aaron up there that we ended up having as our anniversary ale back in September. Ascension's used it a couple times, and then Aberrant recently used it up in Howell.
Beers.
Adam up at Aberrant, he put it in one of his wild beers, one of his sour beers.
Speaking of in regards to barrel-aged beers, we do have a question from the chat. And somebody's asking, with whom and when are you going to be brewing your next stout? And when does the bourbon barrel aging start?
Damn it, it's Sean.
Well, we already, Sean, we already have actually. It's
We
not a
actually have
stout,
another
but
one.
we have a beer currently in a barrel that is on our draft list right now.
Yes.
So that's exciting, and that'll be out.
What kind of barrel is it?
That one I think will be March. I think it'll be March. Yeah.
What kind of barrel is it in?
Was it Buffalo?
Yeah, Buffalo Trace.
Buffalo Trace. Yeah.
And then what kind of stout? If it's not a stout, is it a porter then, or
It is.
it's not like an IPA?
Is
Obviously.
a black wheat wine.
Yep.
And the funny thing is, he like 6 years ago, he wouldn't touch anything stout at all.
Yeah.
And like it took me forever to convert him, and now he won't stop.
Who? Aaron?
No, Sean.
Oh, Sean.
Yeah.
Sean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yes. More and more we'll be doing stuff and throwing it in barrels and all of that good stuff. I think it's just it's just a matter of finding the right partners, recipes, and securing a barrel is not nearly as easy as it used to be.
Say the popularity has gotten just skyrocketed.
I mean, I won't mention certain breweries, but when certain breweries are now throwing stuff in barrels, it's like, well, you know, hey,
Sorry.
Did you have a little sneeze there?
God
Yeah,
bless
a
you.
little bit. Sorry. Thank you.
I think like they're just getting bought up, very quickly, and and if Mitch at Speciation doesn't stop buying barrels, there's not going to be any available for anybody. So, just kidding. Shout out, Mitch.
What's up, Mitch?
One thing I always like to ask is, what is something that you didn't expect, but you ended up learning in this whole process? Like, what's been
Oh my gosh,
the biggest thing that you've had to overcome and kind of really master?
everything.
Because I mean, I'm with you in your journey of sitting at a coffee bar,
Yeah.
watching some guy crack a beer and think, "Oh, I could do that," and in your naivete think, "Well, you just get a building, you brew beer, and you have coffee, and ta-da."
Yeah.
But there had to have been something along the line that you said.
Yeah, did
Looking
you go work
back-
at a coffee shop to like get the full experience, or a brewery, or you just like did you just like go all in, not knowing what to expect?
Yes, that one.
That's crazy when people do that, because usually like you found your inspiration, but usually you take some sort of path in life where you're like, well, I'm going to build on this one experience, or sometimes you just like fall into shit, and so
Yeah.
it sounds like you just fell into this.
Kuma can probably attest to this. I am an insane workaholic. I am certifiable.
I think everyone that owns a business.
Yeah, have been
10
online.
out of 10 can verify.
What's the latest you've ever sent an email?
Oh, time is not a thing. Like,
my God.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 a.m. whatever. Doesn't matter.
9 a.m. That's when we're all starting our day.
I mean, a week ago I was up
He
till
did start at
4:30.
4. He's 4 a.m.
I'm
I've
just
gotten that
messing.
email
Yeah, I know.
before.
You just go.
But that's like, I think now it's an entrepreneur podcast, which is great. I love that. I think the biggest thing I didn't understand was like how quickly, especially if you're semi-successful at all, like how quickly you move into different phases of your business and how you need to adapt as an owner. And I'm now in a phase where HR is a lot of my job. And to be honest, like I have needed to become a professional therapist / HR / coach.
You're in the
That's
don't
I-
get sued roles, basically.
What's that?
You're in the don't get sued kind of.
Not don't get sued. It's more of a, so Cultivate's a weird beast in that my wife and I wouldn't do all this work and spend this much time because we don't make that much money doing this. We wouldn't do this if it weren't for that we actually cared about people. And I am constantly obsessed with people's careers and like how they're growing as both people. We talk about this all the time, like character as people and competency, like how are they growing in their skill sets too. Like even in our reviews, we talk about both competency, how we're helping you grow in your skills and in your areas, but also like character. Like we want you to be a better person when you leave Cultivate at some point, because we realize most people don't stick around.
Do you have that restaurant dynamic?
We do not. We have fought, and Kuma, you should ask Kuma that, but we have fought constantly, and we have constant communication and talks with people, keep really short accounts. I think a lot of that has to do with the husband and wife team. Like her and I need to keep really short accounts or, set it on fire or whatever. But we need to keep short accounts, so then that hopefully translates to the rest of the staff. And we finally, I think, figured it out. within the last 6 months, like how to translate that. So that's been the biggest.
So what's
hurdle.
okay? Well, then everyone's listening. What's the secret of your success? Like, what have you learned that had you learned this when you started, life would have been so much easier. So you figured it out. What is it that you figured it out? If it's not overly private or proprietary,
No.
For other brewers and breweries that are listening.
No.
Well, even
Therapy.
bars,
Therapy is
restaurants,
key.
coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys kind of do a little bit of everything. You know,
do.
the only thing you really don't do is have that full service restaurant experience because you guys, people walk up, place their order, get a stanchion, and that's
we
it.
don't have a fryer.
Well, not you don't have you
No
have
table service.
you have like not servers in regards to like food runners and
Yeah.
drink runners, but you don't have someone sitting down and
Yeah.
asking, hey, can I get you another drink or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's
Right.
it's more, you go up, you order your drink and you go sit down, you
Yeah.
want another one, you go up and get back in line again. How is that in regards to the restaurant industry? I'll let you get to Matt's question too right after that in
It's
regards to
important.
what you learned and what you could tell yourself maybe,
Yeah.
what you wish you could tell yourself like 6 years ago. But how does that work in regards to what you've seen from basically your employee standpoint? Because again, they're not servers, they're simply, food and drink runners.
Yeah. We have higher demands on our employees as far as an industry than any other place that is out there. And I will put my foot down on that. It's amazing what our employees know, how they're trained, what they do, and just the people that are able to hack it at Cultivate is pretty tough. So when you get hired in, you're told now right away, like, hey, like this isn't just a physically demanding job. Like this will take all of your mental and emotional energy that you have, and so.
It's a good second interview.
Yeah, we demand people to
I
show
don't know
up.
if I've
and,
ever been told that.
Yeah, so we demand people to show up and like, hey, like you got to bring all of yourself. Like, and we want all of you there. And I think that's been an interesting dynamic at Cultivate, but it's also what makes it the most unique thing. That's what makes us unique is everyone brings their own personality, and we try to find ways for them to thrive within the organization. Given their personality.
Well, you said you tell that now to all of your employees. Is that the thing that you wish you would have told your employees at the beginning, or?
I just wish we were better at hiring in the beginning. And I mean, sorry, I don't know, that might come off really bad.
No,
I don't mean to come off bad.
that's-
I think you just learn a lot. I have grown more as a person in the last 3 years of running Cultivate than anything I could have, which is why I'm the most happy, in part why we started Cultivate, is like I've grown as a person more than anything else I could have done.
Had you ever been on the interviewer side of the table prior to being at Cultivate? Because that's kind of, it's definitely a learned experience that you don't know until you do it. You don't really know how to do it. You don't know what questions to ask for, what segues to go, how to create that conversation. Had you been on that side before, or?
So this is my third business.
Okay.
So I had, but it was very different because they were more, it was tech related before this, and it was very different.
Looking for different answers and
Different-
different mentalities.
Yeah, and even different personalities, like
Yeah.
tech people,
Have
different
no personality?
Yeah, a little bit different.
Do you have any curveball questions when you interview people? I've been asked some wacky questions, so I'm just curious.
Well, the best one lately, which just happened yesterday, we're hiring for, I can't say what because I don't want, whatever. I find when we
You're hiring for a position.
we're hiring for a
A
position. There we go.
And you interviewed
I
someone.
sent out like, hey, do this exercise. Like I have exercises now that people can do. Like not like
Yeah, you make
Physical.
knee up,
burpees.
not physical. Only if you're a runner.
Like a presentation?
Yeah, a presentation, and then they sent it, and I said, okay, this is fine. Now, why don't you put your personality into it? And they sent back like, okay, cool, because all they did was look at what had been done and then executed, kind of following that stream. And I was like, okay, that's great, but Cultivate doesn't want to be what it is today, tomorrow. And so I sent that back to them and said, hey, what unique thing can you do and add? And they sent something else.
Like
which
a
was
fire breather or
great.
something like that, or
Yeah,
so we
exactly.
can juggle chainsaws.
Well, have you guys ever had a question like a curveball that Angela brought up that?
What?
I feel
have
like there
a
was
list
a-
of curveballs.
Well, let's just go with
you go.
let's start with one and see if we can get like around the table before we take
I
a
don't know
quick
if
break.
I'm
but
like afraid to say because I don't know.
you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah,
so this is
you obviously
really,
you have one in mind, so just say it.
At least that one.
you don't have to say where, who, what, when. Just be
Right.
like, did they ask you like for me? I
Okay,
remember. Oh, go on.
I'll give you two that come to the top of my mind right away.
A second ago, she wasn't going to give us any, but now we got two.
Well, this one, no one will ever know where this came from, so I can say it. Someone asked me, very professional. This was a big group interview, presentation, everything. They asked me what my favorite pizza topping was, and it was like a serious like. You're gonna die. What is the last topping on your pizza? And I'm like, what?
Was this one of those like vector marketing? Like,
No.
Cutco interviews? I went to one of those
I
a
wish
while
I could
back.
say, but I feel like I'm not even gonna say my second one because it's
Well, what was your pizza topping?
If
Oh,
you
that's
say
a good
pineapple,
question.
jalapenos.
Oh, okay.
No, pineapple, you're
Jalapenos are
fired.
get out.
yeah, you're not
Done.
Matt, have you ever had
Yeah,
a?
So
So-
much hate for pineapple on pizza.
It's,
feel like
it's
this
the
is
Guy
like a
Fi-
new
it's
thing
the
I've
Guy
been hearing.
Fieri of pizza topping. It has a place where it belongs. It's just not on the pizza.
Honestly, I just had some pineapple
That's the best
pepperoni
analogy I've heard.
jalapeno pizza from
You're fired.
Filling Station in Traverse City, and
Oh,
it
Filling
was
Station.
bomb.
I love that place.
it was so good.
Yeah.
I went there for the
I've
first
heard.
time.
Yeah.
That's that Saturday when I was
Did
up
you get
there.
pizza?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I
That's
did.
the
I
way-
thought it was all right.
The silliest question. I think the question is, if you were an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Oh yeah, I've got.
Oh,
that
you
one.
guys, I have another good one for you. Unrelated to
you go.
that's
Now we have
less
three.
obvious.
That you want
Three with an
first one
unspoken
either.
Three.
sentence.
If you were like three artists, you're stranded on an island. What three artists are you going to listen to for the rest of your life?
The Desert Island.
That's another
question.
one. Yes, yes, yes.
Desert Island, three artists.
Desert
And
Island.
I answered it like extremely fast, and they were like, well, "Why did you answer that so fast?" And I was like, "Because I
because
listen to the same song on repeat for like 8 hours when
And
I
what
do
song is
work.
that?
It just depends on my
Nope.
mood.
What song is
Oh
it?
no.
It's always different.
It's obviously
What,
only
what were the
three.
three artists, though?
I
No,
swear to
no,
God.
my three artists
Yeah.
were Flume, Chet Faker, and
Are those words?
Jack Johnson.
Are those
I know what Jack Johnson is. It's the opposite of
Jack
Thomas
Johnson.
O'Leary.
Jack Johnson. I'm running in the ocean.
Yeah.
Rob, what about you?
Well, my pizza topping. I mean,
Well, no, not with your pizza top.
I was just gonna throw. I was gonna throw that one out there just because.
Ham is the pizza topping. one.
No.
No, it's macaroni and cheese.
Ham is the answer. What is the question?
Are we out of beer? Or?
I mean, there are
plenty more,
like
man.
it's,
We got plenty more. Let's crack open another one while we're
Grab
kind of.
Get the grape
Are we
one.
skipping
All right,
the
Conquer
break?
Grape Sour.
I mean,
I only asked because I was gonna run out real fast.
Relax.
Get there.
The Angela on Draft podcast will take a break on Friday.
I've been drinking coffee,
Ryan,
so I'm all, like,
as
wound
either
up.
the interviewer or interviewee, what's been like that curveball question? You know, mind you, like asking someone to do like a exercise is a little bit different. 'cause
Yeah,
you're
what is the
asking them-
exercise? Can you tell us in case we apply and we can be prepared? I've done projects. Throw one at me.
Jeez. Here, just drink this. Go away. Relax.
There's your curveball.
Yeah. I don't honestly. I mean, this sounds stupid. I don't think I really have a curveball question. I would say our interviews are some of the most direct. Like, I just don't want to mess around anymore. And I think that's a thing we learned in the beginning was like, there's just like a lot of soft questions and a lot of like dilly dallying and just like there's just not.
I
that
truly
just doesn't
believe
exist
within 5
anymore.
minutes you could figure out if you want to hire someone or not.
100%. And now like the
Whoa.
gut, the gut test is like everything. It's like we just had someone recently that I won't say who, but wanted to hire, and I was like, no. Like I just knew within 5 minutes, like no,
Do you guys always agree, or is there sometimes some
no,
conflict?
rarely.
I want to. I
Do we
want
agree?
to. I want to.
Who takes on HR then? You or your wife?
It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something we learned too. Is like one person needs to own it.
It's
Yeah.
it's pretty crucial as you grow to have like that stability in the business. I think.
Yeah, and it has to be more of the cut and dry logical person that needs to do HR. It can't. My wife is one of the most amazing.
Are you saying your wife's not logical?
She's not a logical thinker. She'd be fine with me saying that. She is the most amazing. Like,
I was trying to give him the
creative-
softball to like
No.
come back to
Is she
what you
listening?
just
We've
said.
been together for 17 years, so she's the most amazing, just energetic, loving, caring. I would argue she's the best event planner in the United States of America. She's amazing. She's just phenomenal, and everyone loves her and is connected to her. But also, like, well, if you think about it as an HR person, you just
there's too many feelings.
There's too many
involved,
feelings and
yeah.
too much. Like, it's hard to say difficult things that need to be said sometimes to people. That here's the thing. I think all of us in our careers want to hear, like, the truth. Both
constructive criticism.
truth. Yeah, even if it's not totally true, at least some version of it, so that we can process that with that person. And I think that that's very, very important, and it's something that has changed Cultivate, to be honest.
I want to ask you this question as we kind of lead into the break. What is the weirdest question that you've been asked by someone you were interviewing?
Oh my god!
Like
We're
emotional
like-
support llama?
Better on HR over here.
I'm pretty sure it's like, do you when
drug
people
test?
find out? No. When people find yeah. No, we don't. But
There you have it.
I'm not gonna say any names.
It's in the air.
We're no, and there's a reason for that.
It is Ypsi.
There we go. It is Ypsi.
It is Ypsi.
I think when people find out it's a husband and wife team, that's like the immediate, like, some people can't stop their mouths from running and they need to stop their mouths.
In the interview process?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're just like, how does that work? Do you guys love each other still? Do you guys, like, they're trying to, like, figure it out. And I'm just like,
That's a curveball question.
like, that's none of your business, actually. Whether we love each other or not, it's none of your business.
And I'd like to thank you for your time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break. We have one quick question from the chat room before we go. Are you guys in any affiliation with the Cultivate in Baroda, Michigan, or no?
No, there has been so many Cultivates, and I'm not sure if I should talk about it or not, but there's been one that's like copied all of our branding and everything, and it's frustrating.
Isn't that down in like Texas or something?
In Arizona.
Well,
but
we
It's
will.
shockingly similar.
Yeah, we're going to take a quick break.
Interesting.
We'll be back in about 10 minutes. We'll be right back. Better on Draft Podcast. And we are back. Episode 156, Better on Draft Podcast. The studio got fuller, both with food as well as a extra guest. Coming in studio, repeat offender Dan Riley. How you doing?
I'm good.
You got to get into that microphone.
Let me
over
do
there.
that. I'm good. I'm really good. Ken, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. We're excited. You brought us food, so obviously everyone's happy.
Yeah, come on. You guys are easy targets.
That's very, very true. So welcome. We appreciate you stopping on by.
Happy to do it.
Axel Livernois Tap over on Livernois, just north of 8 Mile. The construction's done over there, right?
Yeah. I mean, finally, the
Let
longest
the barrels
resurfacing-
fly.
Yeah. Oh God. I'm starting to drool.
You should
just thinking about it.
get one of those barrels and age a beer in it.
I'd like to age a couple people on the city planning commission in one.
Aren't they all 100? How much longer can you age them?
Or the consultant who worked with the contractor to define a 5-month period for a 6-week job. Yeah.
So as always with segment 2, we kind of go over what's going on, and in fact, we have a little sounder.
Here is Robert with the beer news.
Robert's even here for the beer news. He doesn't just tell us the beer news.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You guys did that with, shout out to Houston.
I kind of wanted you on a helicopter, to be honest.
Speaking of news,
Yeah, there you go.
there is a really awesome beer store over in Rochester Hills called Zatuna Liquor, just south of M59 on Rochester Road. You can go check them out. They actually do growlers to go, as well as single bottles, and they're going to be doing the Sheboygan Brewing Imperial Cinnamon Hefeweizen, which is a 7.8% beer. We actually had a little bit here. We've got some in little, I guess maybe prowlers, little pint glasses that were delivered thanks to Sheboygan themselves. Came out. What is this? Why are people pouring me more
It's the
beer?
bourbon barrel ISR.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't catch up, and I'm barely drinking with you guys. So go check them out. In 2 weeks, that cinnamon Hefeweizen is going to be available for you. Rob, what do we got with the news?
Let's go ahead and just start off with, the only event that I have on here. Just sending out reminders, everybody, that the 14th Annual Winter Beer Festival at Fifth Third Park. Tickets are on sale now for everybody. That's going on February 22nd and 23rd. That Friday, it's going to run from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. with Enthusiast Hour at 4. Saturday going from 1 to 6 with Enthusiast Hour at noon, because, people should be drinking before noon. And apparently we still have to put in that one disclaimer. If you buy a designated driver ticket, that does not guarantee you get a designated driver.
They will help you press the Uber app on your phone.
Probably.
But that's about as far as their love goes.
That's not what
That
it's
is actually very
for.
considerate, because that can be challenging when you drink a lot.
I've
call an Uber?
I've never had that problem.
Well,
I've never been
we're
that
not-
drunk. And I've been awfully drunk.
That,
I
I
have.
find that very hard to believe.
I have once in Minneapolis, and I just ended up walking and figured it out. After a couple hours, we found ourselves.
Thank you for justifying my statement.
So, real fun, quick story. I was literally 2 blocks away from Baffin and called an Uber to go to Baffin. 'Cause I was too drunk to realize how close I was, and then I got hit with that $5 cancellation fee, even though the trip would have been like $2.
That sucks.
Just schedule them 5 hours ahead. Who are you kidding?
No, that's my limousine entourage. Watson.
All right, starting out in Pennsylvania, where it's a home for good football teams and a very annoying hockey team that
The
I don't
Eagles?
like to mention. Don't ever bring them up again.
The Pitt Panthers.
Yeah, exactly. They play in the same field.
The Temple Owls.
Nittany Lions.
Villanova Wildcats.
Fair.
The Ravens.
That's Maryland.
That's Maryland.
and Cleveland.
I know. I'm shouting rivals.
Don't mess with my division right now. I'm still in first place in the division. But starting in July of next year, Pennsylvania is going to be instituting a 6% tax on, basically a tax on every malt and brewed beverage that manufacturers selling out of their own establishments. This tax, according to the Philly Voice, it's supposed to be targeted to holders of the G license. You can take that any way that you. G. Yeah, you can shout out to Nate Dogg on that one. It is which that G license is designated only for breweries. And the tax does not apply to other bars or restaurants that serve craft beer. From everything that I've seen, that I was looking at and looking at the tax bulletin that was issued by the state. That sales to a distributor are excluded from the tax. So obviously, if from a Michigan standpoint, if M4 went to Old Nation and bought a couple kegs, they're not going to get taxed. But if you show up at Old Nation and you want a growler of Boss Tweed, you're going to pay 6% on it. Well, we're going to pay 6% on it anyway.
Does Pennsylvania already have a sales tax, a state sales tax?
So I believe they do already have a
So
sales
is this
tax.
a surtax on top of the sales tax? So in theory,
Kinda, yeah.
So
I guess so.
So this is probably what is in lieu of what like the Wisconsin Tavern League tried to do last year, 2 years ago, in regards to forcing brewers to sell to distro to sell out of their own brewery.
Right.
So at a 6% charge, sure you're gonna charge an extra 6%. But you're probably not going to be charging, the difference in regards to monetary value of going to the brewery versus going to a bar and buying that same beer is probably not going to be 6%.
Pennsylvania does have a 6% sales tax as is. So you're looking maybe at a 12%?
12%, yeah, because it'd be a
6 on
6%.
6?
Yeah, it'd be 6 on 6, yeah. So it'd be 12% for your own beer, 6% for sales, 6% for
And that's,
So
if you sell it in-house.
in-house sale.
So if that rule applies, say, if I get you right, if that law was in Michigan and I went to, say, North Center Brewing Company in Northville, Michigan, right?
Yeah, just south of Baseline Road over on
If
North
I
Center
buy a
Road.
pint, do they charge me 6% in addition?
Yes.
Then for this new tax?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
if you
instead
went down the road and you went to a brew
Went to the
pub,
cigar bar across the street.
right, that had North Center on tap, probably Ultraviolet too, because it's not selling very well in North Center.
Oh. I feel a little that was right. I didn't even brew that beer, but I still felt a little. That's my baby.
But if it was at the cigar bar, then it would just be the regular 6% because it's just the regular 6% tax. So I mean,
but again, they're buying it from distro, so there's already a surplus, like a higher charge because the distro is now selling it to
I get that.
the bar.
So it's it's almost like a self-imposed tax. Like you have to be honest here and say, we sold X amount of pints. Thus far, we're gonna say that we, made this much revenue. So here's the tax base.
Correct, but there's the way things go now, especially with what technology is. Unless you're pen and paper, it's easily trackable to know how much you sold, and for the IRS to know how much you sold.
Right.
So you've got to probably match up your excise reports and your beer reports. So
Yeah, how much like
Yes, you do.
Business owners, if Michigan imposed a 6% surcharge, I guess it is a surtax in theory.
yeah.
It's
Well,
a
I think Cultivate buys all their beer from distro, don't they?
Well, I guess they have to,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, so even
Everybody
if
has to.
the beer, again, you're brewing the beer over at Shorts. You're brewing the beer over
Right,
at,
it's not
but you
in-house.
still have to
So-
purchase it.
Except if
Right.
it's like a brewery that,
Wings.
like Transient is a good friend of ours, like people that don't have distribution yet, although they
Can
will.
self distro.
Then they can. Yeah, there's a few of those, Ascension as well. So, but honestly, like all the ones that we do that with now are going to have distribution in the next year. So, because they're pretty successful. Sorry, I was just watching somebody
Matt.
whip a wing through their mouth.
That was a
Matt
solid. That was a
destroyed that.
solid strip and clean.
It was, right?
Yeah. That's a good technique right there.
So
Clean and jerk.
Yeah, so the clean jerk's usually a CrossFit thing. But
Right,
I
exactly.
suppose.
It's an Olympic weightlifting.
I suppose
Well,
it
no,
could be.
like the clean and jerk is something you have to tell someone you do 4 times a day because it's a CrossFit thing.
right.
So you have to tell them what your WOD was, just so you know.
How do you know someone does CrossFit?
Because
they
they
told
tell
you.
After they've cut you off, it also says on
Right.
the bumper sticker.
So I mean, Dan, for you, since I mean you brew in house,
Right.
So I mean, if something like this were to hit you, I mean, the cost has got to go somewhere.
Oh yeah, I mean the grand lobby, across the country is in a lot of these eastern states. We've seen, movements to try to restrict, the taproom licenses or require, actual breweries to sell to distro and then buy back for their own tap rooms. We see the beer and wine wholesaler lobbies in a lot of states, trying to restrict or at least constrain what you can do in a tap room. In Jersey, they had the required tour, in order to order a pint. So
I think
whatever,
Georgia does that too.
yeah, whatever restriction means are there, and eventually it would not surprise me if we saw an acquiescence to an additional direct surcharge or direct sales surcharge happening in states with more, I would say, more liberal taproom licenses or at least taproom structures. And I think ours here is pretty progressive. I mean,
Do you guys still have your production facility?
No, we still rent that space. I use it for cold storage, but I rent part of it to a charity. But we sold all the original equipment off to Dark Horse actually last year.
Okay.
Primarily the canning line was that they were interested in, and then I think they scrapped a lot of it and resold some of it.
I was just curious because obviously, if you brew at that production facility and you want to sell it at Livernois Tap, don't you have to distro it out? And
No, it's if you're under the same license, it's just a matter of moving between facilities. If you look at the Jolly Pumpkin's probably a good example, where they're brewing Jolly Pumpkin and Dexter and distributing in 9-10 different tap rooms.
So you like the wings, Kuma?
Yeah, they're great. They're really good.
Yeah, they're pretty addictive.
the wings are compliments of Dan over at Axel Brewing, Livernois
Chicken
Tap.
shawarma wings,
Chicken
or
shawarma.
AKA crack wings.
You can
Yes. You have a critique?
No, I just am I'm going ham on these wings. And I'm I just want to say, I successfully ate a few wings and a white tea, and I feel pretty good about it.
Nice work. Well, the nice thing is the garlic sauce is white too, so if you fling any on you,
So,
you're doing the clean and jerk.
Before we go to the next article, we do have a question from the chat room. Adam Stout over at Aberrant wanted to ask Kuma if he had settled on a name for your beer yet.
I don't have an Adam. Come on, man.
Hold on.
I sent him a couple options earlier
Hold on.
today.
This is my area. What
Yeah, Adam, check your email.
what beer do we have not? Do we need a name for?
kind of
so
beer?
it is a white IPA fermented with a mix of microbes that he has in house, primarily Brettanomyces. And then it's going to be it's been spiced with Indian coriander, fresh orange zest, and then amchur, which is apparently a dried powder of green, like unripe mangoes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we got
Can you just call it a whole lot going on?
A whole lot going on.
What about the Padma?
The Padma? I'm not sure what that
It's
is.
very exotic. It reminds me of Padma Lakshmi. All these,
Okay. I see what you did there. Actually, that's not bad. That was good.
Because even if like
Wait, are you talking about the host of the
Chef.
cooking?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
am.
don't think I've ever heard that name shout out, but I love that show.
You clearly have not been around a lot of chefs. We usually just scream at her and at the TV.
she I have a disdain for her, and she turned me off that show. I used to watch that show religiously, but she got to the point where I couldn't watch it anymore.
The outfits.
What happened?
No, you know what it is? Like, it seemed like she became a judge when her job was to be hosting.
Yeah.
And it's like there's too much going on. Like,
Oh, is it kind of like if Carson Daly started judging anything on The Voice? It's like
Sure,
you're just
I-
there to look
I don't really know.
semi-pretty and like
it's
talk,
like
man.
if sure, if Ryan Seacrest
Hypothetically.
was like, "Hey, American
Hypothetically.
Idol, I'm gonna teach you how to sing now."
I agree with that.
So,
I'm,
like-
I'm a rabid viewer of that show, but I would
And
agree that's a
I miss
criticism.
Katie Lee Joel.
Nah.
You know, she was great in the first season.
I have no idea what's going on.
I don't either.
yeah. I don't know.
Meanwhile,
a
back
rabbit
in the
hole.
news.
Yeah, I was gonna say a rabbit hole on Better on Draft.
Yeah, we'll have to do a fourth segment just about
Yeah.
Top Chef because this was like
Better
my
on
thing.
chefs. All right. I was going to go to this just as, I'm just kind of going random order right now. So obviously a couple weeks ago, there was a court battle that began between the likes of Pabst and Miller Coors concerning the need for Pabst to have a place to call PBR a brew home. There was a bit of a nice bickering that was going back and forth, and actually it was a new piece that actually on the way here I was listening to NPR with my old ass self, and they were actually talking
You get
about
that
it.
in the Flintstone Mobile?
I do, right? I got some good shoes to stop that car too. It's a pain in the ass in this traffic. But they actually there was a piece when they were talking about the piece. There was actually something that was in there I did not know, was that apparently in the negotiations when they were trying to kind of rework a new deal, which the contract for Miller Coors to brew PBR is supposed to end at 2020, that apparently Miller Coors allegedly was asking for twice the amount of money that they have been being paid to make PBR,
Yeah.
which then, of course, started this whole battle and then going to court. Well, the lawsuit, I believe, was in 2016, and they've now finally have gone to court for it. Basically, just before this case was going to be said and done, all of a sudden a settlement came out. Pabst came out in a statement and said that they basically said that they will continue to offer Pabst Blue Ribbon and the rest of their authentic, great tasting, and affordable brews to all Americans for many, many years to come, which, of course, includes Colt 45, so that's a bull-ass lie.
That's gonna be what ones are those?
Old style.
What's the list?
Yeah, Old Style, Natty Boh.
Natty Boh,
Rainier.
yes.
Rainier.
Rainier over in the Northwest.
Oh man.
That's my
A lot of
whenever.
heritage brands.
Yeah, it's when you go and you have the beer of that city. Like you go to Baltimore, the beer is Natty Boh. You go to Seattle, the beer is Rainier. You go to Chicago, Old Style. Like
The
that's
official beer of guys mowing lawns with high socks and sandals on.
Yeah.
I'm interested though how they settled it, because I got to say that they've been
As am I.
100% contract brewed by Miller Coors facilities, and they don't. PBR has they have no capacity.
It was
at
probably because PBR won the 2016 gold over at the GABF for American Light Lager.
Hey,
Really?
we placed second to them that year with a cream ale in that category.
That is amazing.
I mean, yeah, there's no details as far as what the
Oh,
settlement
no, that was
is going to be.
Sorry.
I basically this was a lawsuit where Pabst was looking for $400 million in damages, and wanting to have a space, and Miller Coors was contending that they not only don't have the space, but they were going to be closing facilities anyway.
So why don't they just sell them a facility?
Because they don't want them in the market. It's all about market share. Basically,
Right.
it was a 20-year deal. It was a 20-year contract deal with a renewal option. And I was actually surprised that Pabst could make a case because technically it was a 20-year contract brewing agreement. And I think what Pabst was contending is they had the capacity, they had the space, but they were just trying to, create, more of a monopoly business in the adjunct lager space. But
Right. I mean, there was an article that
Which is accurate.
which is exactly what they were doing.
I mean, there was an article that mentioned that Pabst was the 5th most popular brewery in 2017. Would you want to be brewing someone else's beer that makes them the 5th most
Well,
popular
they've got
brewery?
checks to cash, so yes. Especially when I'm sure Miller Lite's like 7.
Some days, yes. Ask Brew Detroit. They'd say, yeah, we like that. It's a good model.
Check.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a little interesting problem, but I guess that's going to be resolved. And PBRs and what the heck was it called? A Polish martinis for everybody. Which
Polish martinis.
A Polish martini apparently is a PBR and a shot of scotch.
Come on. Where's the Polish in there?
I have no idea.
Because that would be like an Irish
American beer,
martini,
yeah.
I
right?
feel like you're setting us up to say something, and I'm just like, it's not gonna be popular with anybody, so I'm just gonna shut up.
Like,
It's
I can see like a
it's so
shot
many
of vodka
one-liners.
and a PBR would be.
I only go what people tell me.
I need
That's all
something.
got.
I need to know who these
something
people are.
crushed
I'm
at
so
St.
sick and
Andrews
tired
on
of.
glass.
Everybody tells me this. Everyone tells me that.
I'm
the
looking
people-
it up on the Google machine.
The they.
The Goog.
The Google machine,
Google
and
machine.
I'm not seeing anything about PBR and Scotch as a Polish martini. So I think whoever told you that is a damn dirty liar.
Well, if when we go back to the Detroit studio, we can have Annie ask her boyfriend's dad because
he's
that's
okay.
where I got it from.
God damn it!
This
Out of all the things to break me, that was it.
Crowler.
What else we got in the news?
All right.
Have you guys talked about Trillium yet?
Funny thing,
That would
What's
be
going on with
sweet.
Trillium?
this is a big one.
Lay it on the trap.
All right.
Should try this.
So, basically, I guess you can consider arguably one of the big favorites in the world, the New England IPAs, is kind of taking a punch in the face this week. Some information kind of came out about the practices that were happening at Massachusetts-based Trillium Brewing.
They don't have a good HR program, huh?
Apparently,
No, they don't have a PR program either.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, a former employee, he came out on Beer Advocate, and he made this long post, which got deleted, and then it got put up
Did
on
everybody
Reddit.
read this, by the
No,
way?
this is the first I'm hearing of it.
What?
I've read the headline.
heard
not
about
the
it, but
So-
specific
You
piece.
too
Read
busy
it.
brewing over there
He's
to
brewing.
keep up in the
I got
He's
times.
brewing. He's
I got
trying to
stuff to
hire
do.
good employees.
I love a good social media scandal.
I keep my nose right here in the computer.
So basically, this employee made several claims. First, alleging hourly employees were cut. The hourly wages, rather, were cut from $8 an hour to $5 an hour for new and existing employees.
Ouch.
Second, a beer that was said to have been tequila barrel aged, apparently had just simply had tequila added to it. And
So just for
Fortified.
the listeners, that's completely illegal.
It is,
If you don't
but
know.
it's not
I-
unheard of.
I was
Comment.
gonna say,
You went with unheard of. Yeah.
and I mean
listen, everybody would be scared at what happens out there. Just letting you know.
And I mean, in the post, the employee talked about how people had asked about the beer and they couldn't really describe it, so they went to the management, who basically just said, just go make something up. And to the point where they kept asking, and they just said, well, just tell them it's Brewer's Magic, according to what the employee posted. The third thing, that Trillium has a line of frozen beers, which, according to this employee, are primarily made from using leftover beers that had too much trub to sell in a glass, or just being low fill bottles that they couldn't sell.
So before you get to the fourth one, third one, I know of a local company that's done that. And I don't want to call them out because they are friends of the show. But
They put frozen beer in a.
no, they made a frozen beer out of a bad batch of beer.
So just to
Is
clarify, are we
Trub-
talking like beer slushies, or are we talking about like
Beer
an
slushies.
ice box? Okay.
Beer
Is
slushies.
Trub a brewer's term?
Trub
Yes.
is basically, it's like a layer of sediment that's basically at the bottom of a keg, or like in my case, a big ass stuff.
protein,
Because
Six-
this-
it's just basically like just all the
Okay.
sediment that's in the
I
bottom
feel
from,
like I
from
knew what it
fermentation.
all the
was,
stuff you
but
try
I
to
never
remove
knew
to
the
clarify.
term
Right.
until I
The
kept reading
schmaltz.
these articles. I'm like,
Yeah.
so that's a thing, huh?
So that's the thing. Well,
As he
if-
goes
if-
into the fourth one, that
when
explains.
you brew at home and you just look at the bottom of that thing and you're like, damn, I gotta clean that thing.
Yeah, that's what
I
it
gotta
is.
clean that
moment.
thing. That's what it is.
And you're already drunk.
Exactly.
Because you're homebrew.
I don't want to clean
Exactly.
this.
So the fourth item is that growler purchases were primarily filled with Trub kegs.
Oh,
That
no.
that basically they would take when someone asked for a growler fill, they wouldn't go off the primary tap. They would go off of whatever tap that was hooked up to the Trub
Oh,
keg
no.
and would fill the growlers up with those.
Why would they do that?
That
Because they were saving the good beer for the customers that were sitting at the bar
that
or
for
taking
the-
the cans
Well,
to go.
is there anything wrong with Trub beer, or is it just how it finishes?
It's thick.
It tends to be what the Trub tends to be all the stuff that you don't want in the beer
Right.
because it's providing a lot of off flavors. It's like it's all the yeast that's falling out of solution. Like if you've probably heard the term flocculation, like that's something that you want the yeast to
Matt
do.
apparently
What did you
Nah.
just call me?
You like in most cases you want the yeast to flocculate out of the beer, and you want it to compact in the bottom of your tank so you can remove it.
Okay.
So
So basically, what you've got is beer sitting on a bunch of sediment.
a bunch of dead yeast, hop particles, like the plant material that's like bitter.
So
and
like the
not
salad part.
flavorful. Like the salad, yeah.
Okay.
It's basically that's not what you want to drink.
Not a best practice. Is what
not
you're
a
saying.
not a good practice.
Not
No.
kind of the thing you would expect from like a cult, brewery
Yeah.
Right.
with
Not- I
like
wouldn't-
sought after, beers. with a
Now-
brand like that.
$25 4-packs.
Yeah,
I would
that's
never,
insane.
ever expect that from a brewery.
Now-
But
like
that's
Cal.
probably why they
Trillium-
got away with it for a little while.
now Trillium did respond. Trillium did respond. The co-founder JC Trudeau. I'm going to say that wrong, so I'm not going to try. JC, we'll just go JC.
Call him Justin Trudeau.
There we go. Perfect. So JC responded. He stated in his statement that in the beginning they were paying employees $8 an hour, and that was $8 an hour without tip. Before I think either just without tips or just
prior
before
to
tips.
tips.
Prior
There's
to tips.
no
tips.
way people can
Yeah.
afford minimum
Yeah,
wage
in
is 11 in
Boston.
Massachusetts. anyways.
And he basically, when they were opening a new location, that they were adjusting the rates to $5 an hour. And so, that was true with it going down from 8 to 5. The problem is that, according to him, he said that they mistakenly reset everyone to $5 an hour instead of.
Including non-tipped employees.
There's no way you mistakenly do that.
It's,
I'm sorry, it's not a thing.
I mean, the only way I can imagine that is if you have some payroll software that you like click the thing, and then it's.
Yeah.
Can hold on,
So
hold
yeah,
on,
no.
hold
You're
on,
like-
hold on,
Damn
hold on.
QuickBooks.
I'm timing out on everyone because at least for me, I know a lot about restaurant point of sale as well as
Yes.
HR
Is that
as
even
well.
possible?
Oh yeah, that's how I stay on top. Like I could tell you all the bad things and all the good things about all of my competition. In regards to accidentally resetting, like I looked in my system itself and I could see how someone could do that so stupidly, so carelessly, I should say. In regards to how you do it, and that's simply if they didn't pay attention to anything else. I mean, if you have that many people, I could see it happening for maybe a small one restaurant, 20 employees.
shop.
You accidentally change the wage of your standard employee to one thing because you're changing like the starting wage for employees. But when you're a big chain or a big restaurant with so many people working in there, first of all, you got to have an HR person. And if you don't, you're stupid.
I mean, it's like they have
With
4
that-
locations.
Well, that too. Like
They probably don't have an HR department, but they definitely have a controller. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
they-
how do you not
they-
have a CPA at that point? I mean, that was like one of the first things we did.
You do.
I just don't
like-
think how you don't see your payroll decrease by nearly 50% and not notice that.
Yeah,
Right.
come on.
Right.
Because you're going from 8 to 5 in regards to paying
You're
out.
just celebrating those prime costs going down, bro. You don't need to know why.
So yes, I can see someone doing it carelessly, but in the same sense, when you pull in your payroll report, you would notice such a.
And how do you
cut.
not have like a line outside of your payroll door of like 100 people?
Well,
saying,
that's
"Hey."
because they were told that's the deal. Get with it or get out.
And
Well,
I
it's
guess-
kind of a curious one though, because I could see basically if they went in with like a higher living wage for tipped employees, where the minimum service wage is like $3.50, and they were paying $8, and they decided to go to $5, but their servers were maybe making a ton, still making $15-18 an hour. But I don't know how they could be paying back of the house people or anybody else.
Well, so minimum wage for the state of
Non-tipped.
Massachusetts is 11. So this
Right.
has to be tipped employee
gotta be
wages,
tipped
no
employees.
matter what. So I think no matter what, I think they went to their employees and said, "Hey, you're making this much in tips, GTFO, because we're already paying $8 as opposed to $5, but to be on, or as opposed to $3.75, which is a tipped minimum in Massachusetts."
Okay.
But when you're dealing with Boston, Massachusetts, which is where one of their breweries is, in the actual city itself, where I have like my headquarters is in Boston, and I had a coworker say, "Hey, 1 bedroom in my 2-bedroom apartment is available, and the cost is $17.50
Sounds about right.
for that bedroom." So, like, those are the kinds of things that you realize that you need to pay, obviously, a premium if somebody's going to work in that city.
So what other responses did you get?
So the other thing, and actually I was a little curious about this one, was that, he talked about talking to his employees about the tipped versus the non-tipped model. And, the team basically wanted to keep things where they are, which he didn't really explain where they are is. But he went on to talk about full-time employees having health benefits and 401ks and annual cash bonuses. Okay. At no point did his statement ever say that the employees that mistakenly got moved from 8 to 5 got put back to 8. I don't know if that was supposed to be something that was just to be implied, that those employees were put back to $8 an hour. I don't know. As far as the beer quality, he went on to say that they work hard to maintain high-quality standards and that it's normal for unfiltered beers to have trub, but that they pour the trub out until the beer is pouring properly. And as for the frozen beers, he says that the low-fill bottles are still good beers, and they still use those. Obviously, from his statement, it sounded like they still use those for the frozen beer, but he also stated in the statement that because of the oxidation that gets created from creating said frozen beer, that gets dumped out at the end of the night, and they just make it fresh the next day.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to me that, like, if they're pouring these into, like, a slushy machine, who gives a shit if they're low fills or not, right? I mean,
I
really.
drink low fills all day.
Yeah, I mean, everybody
You
who
guys are all
cans for us
drinking
drinks
a low
low fills. But, I mean, that seems like.
That's all we brought.
So are they doing, I've been to, there's a Thai bar in Portland where it's a thing, the whole
Like
slushies.
Thai is in
like a Thai.
Thailand, or like everyone wears a
Like
tie?
Thailand,
Okay.
like Thailand.
I don't know. It could be like
In Portland, there could be a Thai bar, and it could be
exotic
ironic and
cravats.
normcore.
Who
So that's
knows?
actually, for you, that's a really good question. Actually. That's
I
a-
get one,
you.
it
one
actually
episode.
could be a real question and not satire, so I appreciate that. No, but it's like a thing. It's like, like the frozen, beers in some Southeast Asian countries. So I guess
I
they're
have not
just
had a beer
replicating
slushy
that.
yet.
Really?
I don't know. It's like a craft beer Thai slushy. I'm not familiar with this.
There are a few places that make beer slushies.
Yeah, go to
I know.
Corktown.
I just haven't
Yeah.
gotten in.
Just
gotten
take
into it.
You're here. Take a trip to Corktown.
Yeah.
We tried to
It's the
sell
wrong
beer
time of year.
floats when we opened, and nobody bought them. But they can be delicious.
I mean, there's a time and place for everything, right?
Right.
But it's not 20-degree November.
True.
I typically only want a slushy when I'm hungover. So I don't usually want more booze when I'm hungover, personally speaking.
That's kind of
It helps.
So we'll see how Trillium fares with this. There's been a lot of definitely a lot of backlash I was seeing in the comment sections on a lot of the posts, and a lot of people just basically saying, we're not going to have your beer until you pay your employees
Bullshit.
fairly.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Frog in my throat
They
there.
are trucking along,
Are these the
doing
same
their
guys
usual
boycotting?
marketing, but they're
Wicked
getting
Weed?
torn up
Are
on
these
social
the same
media.
guys boycotting Wicked Weed in line for Bourbon County Stout?
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
But it's a Black Friday tradition.
Why gotta be black?
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. Better on Draft Podcast. And we are back, episode 156, Better on Draft Podcast. Still in studio, Cultivate from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Dan over at Axel Brewing / Livernois Tap. It's so hard. It's both there, technically, isn't it?
It's
I mean,
so weird. Ken, all I was trying to do was establish a sense of place. Great street, lots of history, nice Livernois tap
I
sign.
almost moved on that street.
People are always confused. just Axel Brewing Company. We just call the place Livernois Tap. So when we open 10 other ones, never, we could each identify them with some regional location.
Very, very fair. So you're here to talk about a bottle release.
Appreciate the real.
Yeah. We've got a bottle release tomorrow. The much
Is the line
December
already
1st?
started outside?
what's that?
Is there already a line outside?
You know what? It's weird. There's like a bunch of RVs, and we told no camping in the beer
Is
garden
it
this
college
time
game
around.
day outside? Is there a Wasu flag?
Yeah, it's so actually the Northern Guard is mobilized, and they've got smoke bombs and masks, and they're rolling down 8 Mile right now. I better tell them to stop.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, it's this is a fun one. We've you guys have had the other releases from this series, and we affectionately call it the Livernois Barrel Project to further confuse things. Which is not a separate brewery. It's just a luxury brand within the same family. No, but we Wolf Tone was the first one out of the gate, and we released Forward Observer. We did a barrel-aged Verner Junction Irish Stout. So this is we collaborated with Detroit City Distillery, who are also sponsors of the Detroit City Football Club. And
It's a soccer team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so people who don't know.
That draws 6,000 to 7,000 people in Hamtramck every year, and is
A week.
the subject of it, or a week is the subject of a upcoming, I think, ESPN 30 on 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No.
they filmed a lot of the interviews at the tap room last year. A European production company came in, so it's pretty fascinating. But this name was kind of inspired. The Northern Guard are the supporters of the DCFC, and they are about as rabid as you have ever seen. But they're also just like amazing humans. They, really involved in social justice causes. They're just, absolutely fucking amazing people. And so they were described by a sports writer and a rival club in Cincinnati during the playoffs last year as the most insufferable, self-righteous fans in the history of sport. And I happened to be going to bed at like 9:45 on a Thursday, and I saw this tweet, and I was like, God, that would be a great beer name. But I exhaled it into Twitter, and the guys in Northern Guard just went absolutely haywire. And so we're like, you know what, we will make this beer. So it was great. So DCD, they gave us some Butcher's Cut bourbon barrels and rye barrels, and Adam and Rob made this big Imperial Stout, and it spent the last 8 months in them. And so we've got about 900 bottles we're releasing tomorrow. We'll have some draft out there in the market and select spots, and it'll be fun. 3:00 tomorrow. There'll be a bunch of crazy soccer hooligans, not just the usual, bottle release guys. So it'll be a nice mix of crowd.
The beer nerds.
The
Beer bros.
How did this beer turn out versus what you thought?
You know what? These guys originally, the brewers had gotten separate rye and bourbon barrels, and we were considering releasing 2 separate versions of it. But when Adam and Rob tasted the first batch, the rye was coming out pretty hot. The bourbon was a little sweet, and we had more of the rye. So Adam decided to blend them, which I think was a good call. And it's great. I mean, you know what? Each one's been a little bit different. Everybody will inevitably say, well, is it as good as Wolf Tone? We definitely came out of the gate with that beer pretty strong, and but it's fun. We actually we'll have 2 bottle releases this month. The 21st, we're releasing a huge barley wine that actually it's kind of all the way around the bend. So the Buffalo Trace barrels the Wolf Tone was aged in housed a barley wine for the last 9 months. And then we're releasing it on the 21st of December. It's called The Beast That God Forgot to Invent.
I will need that.
Man, Bear Pig?
It is a reference to a book of Jim Harrison novellas, and we're doing something in the first quarter, as part of a documentary about Jim Harrison, the Michigan author. So.
And then you also have an event coming up on the 22nd, right after your release,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're a fan of that one. Yeah, it's that's actually the same night. It is the 2nd annual Chinese restaurant episode at Livernois Tap.
So what is that in reference to?
It is the Seinfeld reference to the Seinfeld Chinese restaurant episode on Festivus. We sell about 55 tickets, family style Chinese. We have a Festivus poll, and we have an airing of grievances.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's pretty dope.
Every entrepreneur should go through
It
that.
is. It is. You know what's funny? It's like, so today, a fellow business owner sent me the story. I don't know if you guys saw the woman who had a really bad fart
Yes,
in a
I
Miami
did.
dollar store, and a guy gave her a hard time, and she pulled a knife on him. Actually, my controller, who's also an entrepreneur, sent me it and said, "This is what I'm telling everybody. The kind of mood I'm in right now. I will stick you."
Did you guys hear about Absidy?
City.
Okay.
Yeah, I did hear about her.
So Absidy is the name of a young 9-year-old. I don't know.
I think she's 5.
Whose mother named her Absidy by spelling it ABCDE.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Oh wow!
So somebody at a Delta or a Southwest gate was mocking this at ABCDE, thinking it was just some typo or whatnot.
Southwest.
Southwest, yeah. Saying, who put this ABCDE silly name into this? To which the lady with the short hair who wants to speak to your manager said, excuse me,
Actually,
that's my daughter's name.
Right.
So, yeah, ABCDE is now a recognized name.
That was an unbelievable transition from the farting in the dollar store.
Well, that's so. Back to
Airing
upset
of
ladies.
Back to airing of grievances.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got that going on, and then we actually will have a little surprise for some folks. But we've got a can release probably in a week and a half. We're actually just waiting on labels, but we will have a fresh iteration of the Very Stable Genius to celebrate the continued poise and grace of our chief executive. And we will be donating the proceeds to a local charity that he would hate. So.
Immigrants? Anyway, so
I mean,
Cultivate.
literally, it could be a long list.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not really helping us at all.
No.
12 ounce or 16 ounce cans?
16-ounce cans.
Why does everyone want 16 ounce cans?
Well, because we can get them right now. We have a bunch of them.
Because Ball bought too many, so they're selling them really cheap to everybody.
Yeah.
Dang it, I can't drink a 16 ounce beer. I like 12s, I like 8s. I'm pushing for
I
the 8s.
trust you. Why don't you put it into 2 8-ounce cups?
Because I will still fall asleep before I get to the second cup.
But then you just put it in the fridge.
Is there any of that ISR down there still? Is
Right in front of Kuma.
Crowler, Kuma?
Oh yeah.
Did you get some?
I did. It's
All right.
delicious.
Well,
So-
we need to crack open that beer.
Yeah.
There's a giant beer in the middle with a bunch of wax on it.
No,
to make
it's the
No,
same.
that's for you to take home, big dog.
That's the same
Oh.
beer.
It's the same beer.
Yeah,
the
the
same
wax
beer.
doesn't make it taste better.
Yeah.
Well,
the wax-
it makes it
Does
more
it
expensive.
Smell, though?
It does
Ken,
make
that
it more
was-
expensive.
Ken, that's my
Did you
gift to
stink it
you.
up?
Oh
What
wow.
is it?
my
Is
gift
it
to
does
you.
it sparkle?
No.
Well, it's gonna get
Strawberry
aged because it ain't gonna get drank in that anytime soon. So
They sent the
You know,
wax.
Adam always says, he's like, make sure we should probably put on the labels, drink now, we've already aged this for you. You do not need to age these barrel-aged beers, said every brewer.
I think a lot of breweries are starting to put like best fresh or best when fresh now on their barrel aged beers, and nobody
Stop
pays
being
attention.
dumb.
Nobody will pay.
No one
Yeah,
does that.
yeah.
Stop
The
being
brewers
dumb.
cringe when they see verticals. You know, they're like, this is not wine.
Yeah, but there are a
But
lot of
it's fun.
salespeople who promote verticals.
Yeah, well, those are salespeople with old beer.
Well, you have to find a creative
He's
way to
not wrong.
sell old beer, right?
He's not wrong.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. I think the longest vertical I ever did was 2017 to 2011 KBS. And
That
was-
you collected yourself? Or
No, I went to a party of someone who did collect all those beers.
I did a
and-
14 to an 18 backwards bastard, but that was before they decided to do it year round.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
he means
really.
backwoods, not backward.
Yeah, either way. It's They're not listening.
thing.
We're just a struggling podcast.
He's the beer expert. I'm just a suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you know about beer?
Not a lot.
You just gave your life savings to make it happen. What do you
Yeah,
know?
well, exactly. I'm just going. I know how to run a non-profit brewery really well.
There you go.
He knows how to run a nonprofit bar and coffee shop.
You guys actually are a
Not
non-profit.
for.
Yeah,
Not
you're
for.
not for. profit.
Oh,
He's
you
a
were
tempting
saying you don't
profit.
There's a
make
big
profit.
difference,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, no.
Right.
What is kind of like the upcoming for next year for beer? Like, what are you guys seeing as the next turnaround? Is it the next style? Is it the next brand? Is it
Brown.
the next?
Browns. I wish.
Okay.
I wish.
See, you got people
Pilsner.
laughing at
It's gotta
you.
be Pilsner.
Pilsners.
No,
Pilsners
Pilsner's was this year.
Crisp European
I wish.
style.
No, okay,
lagers.
okay.
It's not
Browns and
happening.
ESBs.
I love this
California
topic
Commons.
Hold on.
because brewers and
Every year.
all the time. What we want
Are
is
Pilsners.
crisp pilsners
Yeah.
and,
Clean
and hoppy lagers
yes.
and clean, but the
dry.
public doesn't want that.
Right.
Interestingly enough, like the Brute IPA is coming up in the world,
Yeah.
and I think
It's a
it's you
session
could.
IPA with a different name.
By
It,
Fabergé.
not exactly.
It's a little
It's a little different, but the thing is that I don't think it's enough different that it's really going to pick up too much steam.
I want to be that white guy at the table meme that says a brute IPA just a session IPA changed my mind.
No, you know what? I will say it's kind of funny. We did one in the summer because we basically Rob insisted he was going to do a brute. He knows I like really, really dry IPAs, and I'm not a crazy fan of New England's. And he's like, plus, if I get Cabernet Must, if you let me buy it, it'll be called Axel Rosé. Get it? I'm like, yeah, Rob, I get it.
That's
And it
pretty good.
was delicious. I mean, we blew through it, but
Still
ironically,
getting
the good brute IPAs taste like really, really good dry Southern California IPAs. They're not like.
They're not good.
I think they're good.
Well,
because
if Ken says it's not good, it means it's good.
There's been a mixed bag.
I
of,
love
of
it.
Yeah, no, like everything
IPAs
else,
that
it's
I've
like
had.
bad New England's and bad.
Right.
everything
There are a
else,
lot
right?
of and that's the thing is that it's like these styles come from the coast and they make their way like into the middle of the country. Like there were a lot of bad New England IPAs in Michigan before there were any good ones.
There still are a lot
and
of
there
bad
still
ones.
there still are, and it's gonna be the same with brewed IPAs. It's like it's people got to figure out how to do it right, how to do it well. And
What's the Trillium Goop called?
Trillium Goop?
Trub.
Trub.
I think it's.
There you
It's
go.
not just Trillium.
I think it's.
Trillium did not create Trub.
Trillium Trub trademark.
I think it's a year of brewer specials, IPA or ESBs, ambers. No, I'm kidding.
Come on!
I was like, no,
Dude, I'm 50
I
years-
want that to be
I'm
true.
ESBs?
50 years
No.
old. I grew
No.
up drinking craft beer mostly in the 90s.
I'm
where
really thinking
every flight had a brewer special. That
If
was
you
an
guys
infected piece of
want,
garbage.
if you guys, the brewers, want Browns and ESBs, I think ESBs should be the next style.
No, here's the
People
thing.
are turned off by
no
the
one-
name
That's why you don't
extra.
call it ESB.
I was joking about
The
them, by
craft beer drinking market doesn't give a shit what the brewers want to actually make.
Right.
They don't. They really
Because there would
don't.
be no adjuncts
And they're too
because that's
busy-
a bitch to clean up.
Because if that was the case, we would have been on crispy lagers 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
They're too busy critiquing your beers on Untapped
Untapped,
and in your
yeah.
face about the IBUs in the first place.
Ooh, I gotta ask you, man. What's your favorite Untapped review that you've ever? Favorite bad Untapped review?
Oh, okay.
This is my favorite question to ask.
This is like a
brewers.
brewer's
Oh,
interview
this is a
question.
good one.
I
Your
have-
favorite bad Untapped review that you've ever gotten.
So my favorite one, I have a better Yelp one which I'll share. But I have
Yelp one,
I
yeah.
have a great.
Yelp can
I
be
have two
brutal.
great Yelp ones, but I have one great Untapped one because we have a small winemaker's license.
Okay.
And so I have a partner, who makes cider and mead in Bond for us, and they're special boys in Hazel Park on John R. And everybody regularly sees who they are and knows who they are, right? And so we've got a fairly extensive working relationship with Cellarman's. And the best is we have a, raspberry mellow mead called Hazel. you
Okay.
know, that is, very similar to a mead they make. And then we also have a dry cider called Handsome Ian, which is very similar to a cider they make, but they make these for us. And the best is we had one Untapped review that was like, this is spectacular, so much better than that Rasgar at Cellarman's. and Ian, and they
was the
had
exact same
literally
product.
a very similar one, and we die. And then
Sorry.
the other
That's
thing is
very similar. I
Urban
apologize.
Rest, and we're all very close friends, and Urban Rest serves a Handsome Andy. We have a Handsome Ian, and then at Cellarman's they have a Handsome Dan. It's the same base cider. Everybody
damn
talks
thing.
about what's
That's
better.
amazing. I
The-
never knew that.
No,
that's fantastic.
The best Yelp review we had was when we first opened, maybe 4 months in. Somebody said, the food is pretty good, the beer is great. My only problem is there is no armed security, and they're only 4 blocks north of 8 Mile.
Wow.
I took a screenshot of the Yelp review and I posted it.
That should
on-
be a beer label.
Yeah, I
the whole
posted it on our Facebook page and said sometimes Yelp reviews are helpful, sometimes they're directional, other times they're racist.
Yeah.
And I included the guy's face and name.
Okay, good.
There you go. Good for you.
Yeah, I remember when I saw
respect
that.
that.
I was,
How about
I
yours?
was amazed.
So mine was
I don't give a shit.
we
mine was
never thought that you did.
mine was a beer I made while I was down at Tecumseh. It was my first attempt at kettle souring. It was a Gosa with what was it? It was hibiscus and blood orange zest.
This
And
is where I say, this
by
was not a cultivate.
by every conversation that I had about that beer, by every person who came to me and spoke to me directly about that beer, it was one of the best beers that I made while I was down there. But on Untapped, a gentleman by the name of Chet C.
Shout out to Chet.
I know that
Shout out to
bastard.
Chet C. Who someone pointed him out to me at the pub one time. I couldn't remember his face. He was just some guy. I don't know.
The
But
guy's
anyway,
red hair, kind of obese, beard.
just
No? Okay.
some guy. I don't know.
I'm just going by the name Chet.
Chet. Yeah. And so this guy.
Whoever chooses the name himself.
So this the review that he leaves is very simple. It's very succinct. It is a quarter star, and he leaves a 2-word review with an exclamation at the point, exclamation point at the end. It just says poop soup. That's it. That's the entire review, and I love that review. I loved it. I
think I had that-
screenshotted it. I shared it on Facebook. I was like, "Thanks, Chet."
Did you have you made a poop soup since?
I've been meaning to find a beer
Make
to
a
give
brown
that
ale.
name.
A brown
I've been-
ale.
Exactly.
Can we please
that's
stop with the poop your pants and
Yeah,
the brown
no,
nose?
see,
Yeah.
that's what has stopped me because I was
yeah.
shocked that Perrin was so successful with that name. Honestly,
I give up.
Yeah, whatever. We changed
Brown
the name.
note,
and then-
I did have poop
The
soup, I
brown
think, at
note.
a Boulder Brew Pub around 93. Poop soup, for sure.
Sounds like a
an
personal
actual
problem.
beer that. Oh, okay.
This is when, you keep in mind, no offense, but this is when the brewers were naming all the beers.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Terrible idea.
By the way,
Terrible idea.
2 things. One, there
True.
is a brewery called Bird Poop Soup,
Oh my God!
Stop.
Really?
Just stop.
and there is a beer from Swamp Yankee Brewing called Trey's Poop Soup.
Wow.
Because-
So maybe he just said your beer tastes like Trey's poop
Yeah,
soup.
maybe.
Okay.
it was
Maybe
a
this is
compliment.
someone.
It was a compliment.
Maybe
yeah.
it was maybe it was like oh this reminds me
Yeah.
of.
Maybe he was giving you some tasting notes that you
although
weren't aware of.
the quarter star kind of throws that off.
Well,
Yeah.
no.
See, that's the catch, right?
Yeah, yeah. The
My
quarter star.
favorite ones are the ones that are like, we have a pretty bitter New England that we do sporadically called Yesterday's News. Unfortunately, it still keeps being today's news, so
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
seem
Yeah.
as cute as it used to.
It will.
But we'll have we had a couple reviews like, not my jam, too hoppy. And you're like, well,
Oh, yeah.
it's a
an
huge
IPA.
IPA.
What do you?
Those are my favorite ones.
You're
The
hurting
ones
my
that are
heart
just
right
like,
now.
I just don't even like this style. Bad review.
Right.
And I'm like, then why'd you review it? Why'd you even drink it?
It's
Why
bad.
did you pay money for it? Like, why would you do that to yourself? Like,
I'm going to torture
it happens all
myself.
the time. It happens all the time. Happens all the time.
What is your guys' go-to beer in the fridge?
Okay, I got mine.
Go ahead.
There's 2. I have a go-to beer in the fridge and a go-to beer in the pub. Go-to beer in the fridge is Two Hearted, for sure. It's not really a question. It's one of the beers that got me into craft beer many, many years ago, and just like it's solid every time. It never lets me down. I can always find it fresh. It's pretty great. Second, though, is a funny story, which we can go back to Untapped, which is Pro Pills from Drafting
Drafting
Table.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the first
That's a
time
good
we
Pilsner.
the first time we carried it at the brewery, it was during so we have this Brewers Appreciation thing every Friday night, beer festival week, and so this was like not this year but the year before, and we had it on, and someone reviewed it as the worst beer in Ypsilanti.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right, and
When it is, in fact, a
Yeah.
really,
a
really
great
good pills.
Pilsner.
It's
It's
an
so
incredibly good pills.
yeah, I think it's one of the best German pills that anyone in Michigan for sure has done. And it was just funny because we've been trying to get them to make a beer with us since that's worst beer in Ypsilanti.
That'd be a great name.
I was gonna say,
Right?
yeah, that'd be a great
Right?
name.
That's kind of what we want to do. But so far, they don't let the brewers name the beers at drafting table, which is a great idea. And their marketing person hasn't given the green light to it quite yet.
So, Cultivate. They could find you in Ypsilanti and Depot Town. You guys sell a full-on bar, beer, liquor, cider, coffee, food.
36 taps.
36 taps.
36 taps, plenty to choose
You guys
from.
killed it, by the way. That place is beautiful.
Thank you.
It is
Where,
absolutely.
Where can they find you on the social media? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Yelp?
Yeah,
Instagram
it's
is
Cultivate Ipsy,
Yep.
YPSI, Cultivate Ipsy.
And you guys are the only Cultivate within your own industry.
We
You
are. We're the only one in Michigan
Cultivate.
now, so that's
Yeah, the other one
something.
doesn't
progress.
exist anymore.
So yeah, Cultivate Ipsy, both on Facebook. We have tons of events and amazing things going on all the time. Highly invested in our neighborhood and the city as well. So yeah, I think we got like a few different beer events even through the end of the year. So
Awesome. Dan, Livernois Tap,
Bottle release
Ferndale,
tomorrow.
Michigan, bottle release tomorrow.
Everyone says it's way off the beaten path, but it really is not. It's just
It's only 4 blocks off 8 Mile.
It's like you can throw a
far
football
off.
from Baker's Keyboard Lounge to the
Right.
tap room.
love that place.
So plenty. Beer garden's probably closed now.
Yeah, we still have the tables out, and we will have a fire going this weekend to see if we can get some people out. And but yeah, a couple bottle releases this month. We're actually starting to ramp up the can releases. We've got a beer, ironically, a brewed IPA called Brewed Down coming out.
I'm all about it. I'm there
Everyone's-
for it.
Everyone's got to do one.
I'm there
eventually,
for
Is
right?
that a
We-
Beastie Boys reference there?
Yes, it is.
All right.
As a matter
Nice
of
call.
fact, it is. And yeah, we'll have a couple bottle releases this month, and the Chinese restaurant episode, and a few other interesting culinary things happening towards the end of the year.
Nice.
Ange, thanks for stopping
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
Thanks for having a spot for me.
We appreciate you surprising us. Obviously, none of us, well, at least I didn't know. I don't know.
I
if
had
you
no
did.
idea.
Literally nobody knows I'm in town, hence
I did.
the
I
crabby
did.
Facebook comment.
Yeah, so now everyone knows you're in town because you
Yeah,
decided.
I've been like pretty sneaky, so hopefully no one else listens to the podcast.
Where do you not live here anymore?
I live in Traverse City because I work for Shorts.
You're a bad lady. I wish I lived in Traverse City.
So, guys, that's going to do
Retired,
it.
just
Thanks
to be
again
clear.
for coming
Like
out.
7 months out of the year.
Go check out Cultivate as Ypsilanti, Michigan, Axel Brewing over in Ferndale. Obviously, you can see all the work that Ange is doing up at Shorts Brewing over in Traverse City.
Thank
Bel
Air?
Bel Air and
Air.
Elk Rapids.
Yeah.
And that's
They
going
got
to
a
do it for
collab
us.
coming out.
They got a collab. Yeah, what's the collab, real quick?
Oh,
Go,
yeah,
go,
yeah.
go.
Yeah, so we collaborated with Shorts to make a black IPA. It's been something I've been pursuing
Could you
since
just call it an
2012.
IPA?
Yeah, I mean, probably. I don't know.
Wait till you hear the
Black
Why's
name.
it got to be a
IPAs.
black IPA?
Oh, why is it got to be?
There you go.
That was the name I was looking for.
Yeah, why?
That is,
Are you?
That's two on the nose,
Are you
isn't
going
it?
to tell everyone the name?
Yeah, what's it
Or
called?
is
You
it a
know,
secret?
honestly, I'm going to keep it under wraps until we release it.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, that's my
Sneaky,
choice right now.
sneaky.
All right.
choice.
So look out for that beer from Kuma over at Cultivate with collaboration from Shorts. Again, that's going to do it for us, Better on Draft Podcast, each and every Friday night, 7 p.m. on Facebook.com/Better on Draft. Of course, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and all of your other podcast needs.
Leave reviews.
What's that?
I said leave reviews.
Leave reviews. Yes, definitely leave reviews. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Zatuna Liquor over in Rochester Hills and North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.